Hello viewers, welcome to Candid Conversations with Ganesh Kuppala. As you know, we've been speaking to various influential Indians in UK and you have heard a couple of them already speaking to you. So today I have one more influential Indian sitting with us, Tarun Ghulati. He was one of the finest investment bankers before and there's much more to learn from him and there's very inspiring background that I want to touch base on today. So we have Tarun Ghulati with us. We are going to go into interview with him. Welcome, Tarun ji.
Thank you so much for having me today.
No, it's our pleasure, Tarun ji. I know we met before.
Of course,
we have had a lot of conversations. So today so as I mentioned in my intro, we are speaking to various influential Indians in UK and different fields, whosoever is doing really well. And so we wanted to kind of bring those stories back to Indian community and inspire our Indian community. Thank you so much for accepting.
Thank you very much.
All right, I'll probably go into detail of various discussions, but let's start with your intro and let's see like who you are. It's good to hear from you.
Thank you. I was born in India and spent the first 35 years of my life in India.
Okay.
So that's my Janam Bhumi.
Yeah.
I happen to be a British citizen now, so this is my Karam Bhumi. And I was born into a family that has been involved in public service for 3 centuries, the 19th, 20th, and 21st. So we co-founded Punjab National Bank in India. We gave India's first agriculture minister for undivided Punjab and co-founded what is now called FICCI. My father was a Secretary Government of India, and then I've been doing good work for the public for about 40 years now since I've started. So that's where I began, and I think I started off actually in a very humble way. So whilst I have risen to the top as a chairman of a bank and sat on some 48 boards,
wow.
I started off actually selling ketchup. And there were established brands in India at that time. I started off in a place called Jaipur in Rajasthan. But to make it competitive, I would actually go back and pick up these dirty ketchup bottles. Mm-hmm. And ketchup, if you know, is bright red when we serve it on the table. When it's sitting there in the sort of go down or somebody when it's been used, it turns dark and black. I'd pick it up to make it competitive because the same bottles will be recycled.
Yeah.
Then I went around cold calling, knocking on doors, basically selling manual typewriters.
And this was when you're in UK?
No, this is in India.
Back in India? Oh,
Back
okay.
in
All
India.
Right. Yeah,
I'm talking my journey in India.
All right.
The first 35 years of my life. And basically ketchup, and then started knocking doors, selling manual typewriters. Mm-hmm. Then I launched Xerox in India, so we were selling word processors. Computers didn't really exist.
Typewriters, that tells your age, Tarun.
Yes. And then I got headhunted by Citibank, and I started running their sales and distribution for North India, which is the size of the UK. Mm-hmm. And this was consumer banking.
Yeah.
And then after about 5 years, I was one day sitting in the offices of the HR head for HSBC. And he offered me a job to become an investment banker and to run the financial institutions group for Eastern India, Bangladesh, and Nepal. And basically, banking is simple, people complicated. Ultimately, you're dealing with people, whatever you do. So people give you business. And so I was now extolling the virtues of HSBC to other entities all over the world who wanted to use HSBC for their financial institutional sort of work. And that's how it started. So I've actually lived in most continents in the world. I went on, I was selected from about 25,000 people to the HSBC International Manager cadre. Mm-hmm. So I went off to Hong Kong, mm-hmm. where I ran credit and risk for 15 countries. Typically, it could be a few $100 million on any particular deal. So you could be doing aircraft financing, one particular deal. You could be doing a structured deal for issuance of bonds. Or pure vanilla credit for Japan would be maybe $500 million sort of dollars.
Yeah.
And then I ran operations for about 14 countries across Asia Pacific. So the bank, HSBC, had a strategy. Mm-hmm. You needed to dovetail the operating plans of different countries into the overall strategy. So I helped launch SME businesses across Asia Pacific, personal banking across Asia Pacific. I also revamped the strategy for the private banking. So, and you dealt with regulators across the world. So I'm used to doing big things, but quick learner.
Brilliant.
And learn every day.
So it's been how long in UK now?
It's been 20 years.
Okay.
20 long years, but I've enjoyed that. In between, I did go overseas for about 3 years
Okay.
as a chairman of a bank.
Okay.
And I've sat on some 48 boards, so that I was sitting on some 25 odd boards.
So did you become the chairman of the same bank where you started, or was
No,
it
no, no. It's
like you
been a
moved
journey. It's tough and it's a process, and but not the same bank. So I left HSBC, and then I became CEO for India's largest asset management company,
Okay.
UTI International, where
Oh, yeah, UTI is
globally-
very popular, yeah.
very popular. So I had offices across the world,
Mm-hmm.
and basically after that is where I became a chairman of a bank, and I ran the. This was in Africa, so I've lived also in Africa for about 3 years. And so I've enjoyed my journey thus far.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. That's quite a journey, actually. So
Thank
you
you.
have seen, but yeah, mostly you have been into the banking industry. So if you have to kind of call out what was the biggest thing that, I mean, milestone achievement in your overall career, what would that be?
I think it's a process, but if you were to highlight one particular thing is when I was involved with India. First time I worked for an Indian entity where I said I was the chairman, the CEO of the largest asset management company. I realized that when I left India, it was different. The deregulation hadn't really taken place, and things were very different. And so that was in about 95, 96 when I left India to start my journey all over the world. And when I joined UTI International, it was in 2008, 2009. So within that period, when I would go back to India, I saw a lot of success. A lot of people I could actually say were doing extremely well. The entrepreneurial spirit was there. People were, the landscape has changed.
Yeah.
So I was fascinated, and that is why I was enamored with the idea of finally running an Indian outfit globally. And so it's fascinating what India is today.
Yeah, I know. It's brilliant. And I think, you have witnessed 1991 industrial policy, how it changed the face of Indian economy. And then we have seen tremendous growth in terms of digital India now, like, what we call it. So if you have to kind of segregate or dissect this 30 years of last, economy specifically, because you are a banker, so I'm tempted to ask you this question. How do you think India is doing, and what do you think the future of India look like in the next couple of decades?
I think that's an excellent question, Ganesh, because I've been watching this closely and I've been part of that process. I was there before the decentralization took place, and what you're talking about, the deregulation and everything else.
Yeah.
The licenses and other things have reduced. The ease of doing business, India is ranked much higher now.
That's true.
In the global rankings. And I think under the current Prime Minister, Shri Modi ji, it's on the helm of most top tables. So if you look at the journey, it started in 1991 for India, where I think you hardly had the reserves even in the central bank.
That's true.
At that stage. And then since then, the industries, you name it, India is punching its weight, and GDP growth is there. You have a demographic dividend, which is unparalleled, and entrepreneurial spirit, which I alluded to earlier, is second to none.
Yeah.
And there is that inward demand that drives it, that wheel actually moves. So India is unstoppable. I see it as the top economy, not where it is today, the top economy in the world. I would say no more than 2 decades later.
That's true. So
I
true.
think that anybody who misses this particular bandwagon of India, this journey.
You're so true on that, because we were 6th largest and we beat United Kingdom now. I'm sorry to say this, you're a British citizen now. But then India now moved, looking into the 3rd largest economy in the world very soon, probably in a couple of years from now. So there is definitely a lot of hope. But at the same time, I've been speaking to various Indian, leaders sitting in UK, and because our connections with India and UK have been very strong for decades. So how do you think these two countries, and also while we are speaking, we are talking about free trade agreement and all that stuff. So do you want to show some light on how do you think India and UK relationships are going now, and what do you think is going to happen in the future?
Look, there's a living bridge.
Yeah.
There is a historical link, and if you look at it carefully, the Indians are the largest employers here.
That's true.
And if you collectively look at each small business, whether you're employing 5 people or 6 people, collectively we are the largest. There are large corporates also employing lots of people. If you look at the Tata Group and others, you also have the richest man
Hindujas.
of Indian origin. And there's indeed a free trade agreement that should be signed soon. As you would appreciate, both countries will look at what works best for them. And there are certain sort of creases that still need to be ironed out, but I'm pretty certain that free trade agreement, particularly from a London perspective, this will augur well from a UK perspective, but equally for India. I think more importantly for the UK, because we've already had Brexit, and we haven't really taken much advantage. So this free trade agreement will pave the way for bigger businesses and the economies in certain areas will benefit, and indeed the people involved with the economies.
That's true. Very interesting. So when you look at the UK, you spoken about demographic of India, right? India is like 65% of population is less than 35 or 30-year-old.
Exactly.
So which is a tremendous human resource, which nobody can do. Whereas you look at UK, probably it's our European market as such. So it's probably the vice versa, right? It's not the same direction.
Very correct.
So if you think I think if we can think about like a bit more detail into that, like how is that Indian demography and the UK can support each other?
That's a very good question again. I think, look, whilst you have the youth there, and I was alluding to the fact. So for instance, I'm the co-chairman, co-founder of what used to be the India Startup Foundation, the largest, and now the International Startup Foundation, where in August last year, we had 11,000 startups participating from 11 different countries.
Wow, 11,000? That's a big number.
It's a huge number.
Yeah.
Prime Minister Modi ji had inaugurated the venue.
Oh.
This was in Bangalore and Bangalore. And if you look at the startup and the scale-up ecosystem in the UK, it's pretty robust again.
True.
But if you look at it here, 60% of the venture funds still come from the US. So they can do here by getting more homegrown funds. But whilst you may have the experience here, the twain can meet. East can meet the West.
That's true.
So whilst the enthusiasm and in India, particularly from Hyderabad, Bangalore, which are very nice, robust ecosystems from the startup perspective, you can have ideas, the interflow of ideas, because the barriers are no longer there in terms of trade and other barriers. These are in the minds of people. You can be sitting here and doing business there.
Absolutely. No more.
People want to. So from the London Chamber of Commerce and Industry, I had taken a delegation out to India last year. So equally, there were companies that went from here, and now we have people from there wanting to open accounts and memberships here. So those are not unicorns. So you have people from India wanting to do business here.
True.
But you see that the valuations are pretty lofty there. So whilst there's dry powder there still in the private equity world, but people need to be careful in terms of saying, look, each idea, each startup has to resolve a problem.
That's true.
So once you have a solution finding, then you get the customers in and the revenue chugs in. So the people need to ensure that if you need funding, particularly after Angel, you need the first and second round, they need to show some revenues.
So we do see a lot of collaborations happening more and more
Certainly,
in future.
certainly.
Okay,
certainly.
that's brilliant. And this is from hat of investment banker, right? But if I ask you one more quick question in this area, right? Specifically, I'm part of the Indian Business Network, and I have been to. You've been to India Week last year, and I was there as well. So there's so much talk going on, and the information technology minister from Hyderabad, K.T. Ramarao, was here.
Yes.
He spoke about what he could do, what we can do from the Western world to Hyderabad in specific, or Telangana. And Bangalore is one of called as Silicon Valley of
India.
Yeah. I think Hyderabad is competing as well. So in this entire demography, or in this entire portfolio sinking into the two countries, how do you see that? What are the specific areas that both the countries should focus on?
I think, look, technology, innovation. You can't ignore the fact that you need to make the world greener. So there's scope there. I think there's scope in the agricultural side of things. Innovation needs to come out there. So at this, I chaired a session on boosting rural infrastructure.
Sustainability.
Sustainability is very key. Those SDG goals are important. So if you look at it, there's ample opportunity. There is a matching of minds now happening. This free trade agreement should pave the way. But equally, I think the entrepreneurial spirit that I alluded to earlier, which exists in good measure in India, I think the UK needs to learn a trick or two in that sense. So you have the youth, the demographic dividend there, you may have the experience here. So if you marry the two, success will be there.
That makes sense. Okay, brilliant. That's a lot we have spoken on the investment management and the related stuff. Now let me get into the service side of your profile, because I was reading through your profile and I saw that you have done a lot of work related to service and into public life.
Yes.
So what's your next step into that? And I have seen something, but I just wanted to hear from you.
I think I do a lot of work with the next generation to begin with. So about 7 years ago, I co-founded what is called the 21st Century Icon Awards.
Okay.
Now, this is for anybody below 50 years. And to date, we've nurtured and fostered the youth and entrepreneurs from 44 countries. So finalists and winners have come from 44 countries across the globe. So I do a lot of work with the next gen. I alluded to the fact that I mentor and help startups internationally. There again, the youth are involved, but they could be scale-ups. So they're the folks looking for money after that. Not everybody is looking for money. Business success is not only about money. It's about perseverance, tenacity, grit. And so I help people with that. But actually, what I'm actually looking at today is making London the greatest city in the world. I'm standing as an independent.
Wow, that's news.
For the mayor of London.
That's amazing.
The elections are on 2nd of May.
Wow.
And I'll win this election.
That's big, Tarun. That's big.
That is indeed big.
Yeah. What inspired you to run for the mayor of London?
Look, if you look at London several years ago, 24 Fortune 500 companies had their headquarters here.
That's true.
If you look at it today, they've fallen to about 8 or 9. Why is that? Cost of living, it's not the safest place anymore, where movement is concerned, because the freedom of movement is as important as the freedom of speech. And if you look at it, it's the most congested city in the world. You don't see the policemen anymore on the beat. So I want to change all that. I want to bring the mojo back for London. I want to bring back the smiles on everyone's faces, because you'll be surprised. There are over 270 countries whose diaspora live here.
That's true.
Who call London home. And I've been here for 20 years, as you mentioned. And there are over 300 languages spoken. So those people who came here came for the trust that the UK would have offered them and the growth opportunities. They are seeing less of that today. So we need to do something about that to bring back, as I said, the mojo and make it the greatest city. And that's the inspiration for me to stand as mayor, because the current incumbent mayor has brought London to its knees, unfortunately. People are, you can't move out. Women find it unsafe. Somebody's watch is getting taken, snatched away. Safety is not there, and which is paramount. One life lost is one too many. And there were 21 teenagers who unfortunately lost their lives last year. So we got to put a stop to this.
Why do you think this happened? Is it more like in the process of city growing too fast? Is that something brought us into this, or is it more of immigration policy, or is it more around what do you think London has got into the stage of thinking about safety as a parameter now? And because I'm not hearing from you, Tarunji, about this, but I live in this borough of London, borough of Barking and Dagenham, and I've Croydon and all of these boroughs. I do have friends from across different boroughs, and everyone's speaking about a knife crime, safety on the high street and all that stuff. So why do you think this happened? Is it I know you're looking at mitigating it, but I just want to understand the root cause. Where do you think it started? Actually?
It's an excellent question, very good question. It's got everything to do with politics. politicians. What happens is, if you look at the current incumbent or any politician, they want to do, well, I suppose they start by wanting to do good, and then you'll find that there's investment required.
True.
And they haven't put in investments in the right place. So if you look at the transport system, the underground system here is one of the oldest in the world.
That's true.
But not enough investment has gone into that. So you'll find if you ask anybody taking the central line today, it's creaking. If you look at any other line, it needs investment. People haven't put an investment into that. The mayor is responsible for that. If you look at policing again, you've got ample police, but you don't see them on the beat. But why haven't we hired more people? You know, last year the budget was 21 billion sterling. That's a lot of money.
That is.
And since the current mayor has come in, ballpark about 140 billion sterling of a budget has been utilized. Now, if you put that money into investment,
If those numbers are right, Tarunji, sorry to stop you there. It's almost like country budget.
you'll be surprised. The GDP, overall GDP of of London, is more. I would think it's about the 18th or 19th largest economy in the world.
That's
You're
true.
correct. The population is about 9.6 million, so it's like a large country.
Yeah.
And it's not. You require mature decision making here. You need bold leadership. You need somebody to roll up their sleeves. So you ask me a question, people haven't really championed London, the leaders. And they played politics with London. And if this doesn't change, imagine if you were the CEO of an entity, and I alluded to the fact that Fortune 500 companies have moved out. Now, if you have a decision, because people are operating remotely these days, and if you are asked this question, where do you wish to have your offices? You may choose some other destination, but not London, because your family might say, look, I feel it's unsafe today. So you can choose to be sitting somewhere in Europe or anywhere else. That is the problem here. People have played politics, and I want to make sure that politics does not blur the vision for London. I want to make sure we do the best for London. I want to engage with the communities. I don't have all the answers. Bring in the experts you need to make sure that the most congested city in the world. Just imagine, 156 hours an average driver is wasting in traffic. Now that is what is polluting the air. Certain policies like ULEZ,
Yeah.
I mean, imagine
ULEZ is
paying
a-
£12.50 in a situation where there's a cost of living crisis. And then on top of that, if you come deeper inside central London, you're paying an extra £15. So just think if you're a freight forwarder, £27.50, or if you're somebody, now it's the rich have their cars which are compliant, but what about somebody who doesn't have a compliant car? He or she are paying that fine. It's ridiculous in this day and age. So that I'm going to abolish totally. Not only the expansion, total ULEZ. I'm going to make sure there's no congestion charge over the weekend and holidays. Then you have this London is the slowest city in the world. So what does
20
that
mile
mean?
per hour.
20 mile per hour, unless it's necessary, if you're close to a hospital or a school, you got to keep people moving. And then on top of that, you have these low traffic neighborhoods. So you're diverting traffic from one area to the other. That is what is polluting the air. And there's no real research which would suggest that this is making cleaner. There are other ways. I'm all for making it greener. But then when you have the traffic moving, that is the congestion will reduce, and that is what is going to help us with the cleaning of the air.
You're making a lot of claims, Tarunji. So while I do want you to be successful, and but yeah, are these not really big wins to make? I mean,
not at all. Not at all. What is big about it? So I'll give you an idea. There are 34,000 policemen, and there are 10,000 plus in administration, right? So you already have a force, and you can hire more. How difficult it is to make sure that you got to be on the beat, whether it's 3 days, 4 days. So if you said this is Barking where we are sitting in today. Yeah. If you have your local policeman saying, "Hi Bob, how are you today?" and he recognizes you, that makes all the difference.
Yeah, it does.
The police stations need to be reopened. Where is the claim in this? You got to look. If you got money, you and I have a budget also personally. We deploy it well. When there's a budget, you've got to make sure safety is paramount. It's nothing to do with claim. So tomorrow, if it's an unsafe place, the economy will suffer. Just imagine the nightlife, the night business has gone down. So if businesses are not going to thrive, your pockets will have less, your bank will have less, your family will suffer, and ultimately people will not want to live here. People are leaving London today. And that's the difference. So it's not a claim, it's what needs to be done.
No, I get
As
it.
a
I get
leader,
it. No.
And then again, on the congestion side, if you pull down a camera, there's no fine. So this extension that happened last year, that revenue that is coming in wasn't there. London was still running, right? And so you got to have a league table for policemen. You and I know in business what gets measured gets done.
That's true.
So if there's crime going up in my area and if I'm a policeman and it's reducing in your area, either I seek help or you know what happens if you're not performing.
Do you think the local authorities, as well as the London authority, right, are the KPIs very clear?
Not at all. It's a top-down approach. I would actually coin a new phrase, and I'm a student of management. I would call it patchwork style of leadership here. So you do something somewhere, something goes wrong somewhere else. So there needs to be a collaborative approach.
Okay.
The local boroughs, the local councils need to be engaged with the entire process. So you'll be surprised, whilst not enough affordable housing is there. So communities are broken, they become insular.
That's true.
We need to make sure there's genuine affordable homes. We need to make sure there's engagement. We need to have the local people have a say. So your question on KPIs, no. Those key performance indicators are missing. The twain don't meet. So the mayor's office seems to be more directional in one way from the top. So if you take people along with you, solutions will be found, because a lot of the councils want to do great work, good work. There are good people there, but then you got to engage with them.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. So if you have to, I know you spoke about this stuff, safety, traffic and all this stuff. And London is a place known to be for everyone to come and travel, like tourists and all, right? It's a place for the whole world to come, spend some time over the summer and all. How do you think that you're going to address that? I mean, how has it been in the last few years? Do you think the tourism is still at the peak, or are we not doing well, or are we doing good?
No, I think there are a lot of tourists coming in, but you can do a lot more.
We can do a lot more, yeah.
So London is like a global bank.
True.
Where cultures meet, you can find cuisine from all over the world here. And when you find a place like this, people do come here. But then look at shopping. There used to be a tax-free sort of incentive. That seems to have gone away. I think when safety is paramount, I indicated earlier, if people find it's unsafe and you find somebody's bag is getting snatched or your good watch is being taken away, even if you're wearing a good jacket with a name on it, people are snatching it away, tourists will certainly reduce.
That's true.
So security is not only about all of us and our children.
So
it's also about people coming in, because the word spreads pretty fast. So you can do a lot more, very simple things. And when you do those simple things, people feel secure. You make the transport system more efficient. Tubes are not running on time. You may have 2 buses suddenly.
Too many strikes as well.
Well, you see that there has to be, look, I've dealt with unions in India. Even banks have unions. And you can understand the Indian unions can be tough.
Yeah.
But remember, even the unions have memberships. Those members also have families. They also want to find solutions for the people. So ultimately, when you negotiate with a union, you'll find a solution. And that is where I'm saying, here, well, it's not for the people. So if you're not doing things for the people, then obviously the smiles will be lost. And I said earlier, I want to bring back the smiles on everyone's faces, on each Londoner, across communities, across boroughs, and the politicians. And don't forget, any other candidate doesn't have that experience. This is multi-billion-dollar budgets. I'm not sure they understand the digits. Have they run businesses of that nature? Do they have the cultural sensitivity? People are not culturally sensitive, all of them. I've lived all over the world. I deal with people today, and I've dealt with them for decades. This is the sort of leadership you need, where you can set aside bias, where you do things only for the people, not for your personal gain, and you don't need politicians for this. And
So you don't call yourself a politician yet?
No, I'm not a, no, I will never call myself politicians.
Yeah.
Yes, I will deal with politicians in the central government, and I'll make sure that the current mayor keeps making excuses. I'm not getting money from there. You could bring in investment from outside. I know how to bring in money. I've dealt with money all over the world, and I will know how to deal with the politicians. I know how to negotiate. London contributes to over 22% of the national GDP. If you don't make London safe, you don't get London moving again, you don't get our communities singing from the same hymn sheet, I'm sorry to say, I'll make sure it happens. If the politicians are listening to me today, you will have to listen to me because I'm going to do the best for London. I'm sure you want the same too.
No, makes sense. All right, that's a lot of good content. So what I'm trying to ask you is, now that you're talking about an independent candidate for mayor, right? I mean, in history,
Yes.
there are two things which I really I'm curious to ask you, because coming from Indian background, this is a big dream, really big dream to kind of contest for. But I'm not going to say it's big, because in the context of, we have a prime minister of Indian origin right now, so anything and everything is possible. So I'm not going to kind of discount on it at all, right? But my question is, when did this big dream come to your mind? That is it, and what do you see the possibilities? Has the London ever seen an independent mayor at all?
Certainly. Ken Livingstone was an independent. Now, of course, he was a politician, a member of the Labour Party, and when they didn't give him a ticket, he stood. So the first mayor of London was an independent.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
Now, you talked about a dream. This is not a dream. I dream of a London that is the greatest city. For me, I only started thinking of it about 4 months ago. I was mugged personally on my high street, and I believe people who want to do good get people along with them. So I've got a groundswell support. 2.2 million people are living in poverty in London, you'll be surprised. 33% of them are children. I have a leveling up agenda, I have some ideas. I'm talking to experts, I'm talking to people. You see, so they give me the ideas. I don't have all the ideas. So it's not a dream. It's the passion that I bring to London, which I brought to everything I've done. And my family is a guiding light. As I said, they've been doing this for centuries. And I believe when you engage with people, and people actually are tired of what's happening with London and the way it's being run, change can be brought about. And actually, we need transformational change now, because so much has happened that good needs to be done.
No, makes sense. So what's your agenda for the diversity and inclusion? Because London is a place where every nook and corner of the world comes and lives.
Yes.
So we have people like, I can talk about some of the boroughs in East London, right? So there's everyone coming from Africa or from South Asian communities, like across the world, everyone comes and lives in London.
Certainly.
So what's your take on the diversity and inclusion in London, and how are you going to promote it?
Firstly, diversity has to be fostered and nurtured. And indeed, all communities need to feel safe, secure. Opportunities for growth need to be there for the children, for the youth. So to bring about that, firstly, as I said, I've lived in all continents, right? So I understand diversity, I understand cultures, the nuances of culture. So I've lived from Africa to Asia Pacific to the Middle East and worked a lot with the Americas. So when you understand cultures, you understand people. People bring businesses, people give you business.
Yeah.
I get along very, very well with people. So I'm like a catalyst for change. I'm a catalyst for bringing people together. I engage with communities. You got to have the community engagement. London was a set of villages, like any other big city.
That's true.
So when you bring people together, well, you can see things thriving.
That makes sense. And one more biggest challenge that we see coming from the immigration or the families coming from different countries, right? The housing.
Yes.
Affordable housing being on the top list for everyone.
Most certainly.
Most certainly, right? So what's your plan on affordable housing? And the reason I'm bringing this up is every borough that I met and I spoke into these days, everyone is talking about building 50,000 new homes, 30,000 new homes, like it's a big numbers.
Yes.
But in practical, is
It
it
hasn't
happening?
been done. It hasn't
Yeah,
been done.
exactly. That's my question.
The
Yeah.
current mayor has failed on this target.
Okay.
All right. Housing is critical. So if you look at if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, basic necessities are missing here.
Yeah.
Right? There's a cost of living crisis undergoing. Your weekly shop is a lot less when you bring back, and if you don't have proper housing, it affects your mental well-being.
True.
And that impacts the sort of happiness that when you set out of your home, and as I alluded to, 33% of people are living in, children are living in poverty, 2.2 million people. Housing is a big issue. You need to have targets. You need to bring in investment from overseas. There's a huge amount of brownfield land that is with the councils. That they're very good probably at constructing these homes, but you got to look. You got to make sure it doesn't pollute. There are boroughs. If you go to an Ealing, which used to have old homes, you got multi-story structure, but there's no affordable housing there. It's for the rich again. If you go to Wembley, again you'll find multi-story structures. But then I was talking of pollution earlier.
That's
so
true.
is there enough parking? Is there the right sort of roads? So you got to make sure you engage with the local councils. You engage with the residents in those councils. They should have a say in the planning process. When you bring people together and you have the will and the desire, which has been lacking thus far.
Will and desire is one thing, but how about budgets, Tarun?
Look, budgets have been provided earlier, they haven't constructed. I alluded to the fact, don't rely on the local government here. Don't you get money from outside. I was trying to say there's brownfield land available and cash on that. Regeneration projects need to be brought about. That's not happening. It's happened in some places. Look at Southall today. You know, if you look at Southall, look at the multi-story structures come. I used to run those branches about 21, 22 years ago for HSBC. It's a changed landscape. People are coming in from different areas. The Elizabeth line has come there, thankfully, now. So things change. You create the infrastructure, you invest in infrastructure, things change.
Okay.
Investment hasn't gone into the transportations, not enough investment has gone into those. The roads need to be better maintained. When you bring about that, safety and security, enough policing needs to be there. You create that infrastructure for growth.
Okay.
When you create that, affordable housing will happen.
Oh, makes sense.
And it makes a lot of difference when you have that sort of leadership, which I said has been missing at the moment.
Yeah, that's good. So, but there's also one more area which is very, very concerning for London as whole is the air quality index.
Yes.
Right? And the way the pollution is growing in London. And no matter you talk about various policies and all, but we still see everyone is talking about quality of the air. Is that something in your agenda as well?
Oh, it's one of the top agendas. I mean, you can't ignore the fact that whilst an Al Gore may have predicted that the ice cap will shrink, and I think it was 2003, it won't exist, still there. I think air quality is important, but I've mentioned the fact that it's the most congested city.
That's true.
So you don't need a ULEZ to clean the air. You need to make sure traffic moves, right? When people move. So if you're not spending those 156 hours in congestion as an average driver, which is wastage, that is what is creating the pollution. So when you have traffic moving, the flow of traffic, you bring in transportation experts to make sure that happens. The air quality will improve. You plant more trees. You make sure recycling projects are there. You see, you make sure people are engaged. People understand. People want cleaner air for their children, for themselves, and things will happen. You need the will, the leadership. So it's no use trying to bring in policies that are actually causing pollution now, and that's why you're seeing people are objecting to this. A lot of activists are actually objecting to things like ULEZ. They're not happy moving around, spending days outside to make sure this is stopped. They know this is not cleaning the air. So there are other initiatives which you can learn from. Bring in city planning experts who will tell you this can be, if I want this London to be the most digitally connected in the world, a place where innovation thrives. I want it also to be the most green city in the world. And that is my agenda. So it is on top of my agenda.
Absolutely.
I'll make sure it happens.
Makes sense. But I don't think one can do this without the help of local communities. And
Not at all.
what's your plan on bringing local communities together with you?
My plan is I will not function without the local communities. I cannot be a success without their input, their engagement, and in fact, their leaders will be the guiding force for me. So I will engage not only with the local councils, but the communities that live there. As I said earlier, there are over 270 nations whose diaspora call it home.
That's true.
So this is where, this is a key agenda for me. It's one of my key planning strategies. And so that your success will only come when you take people along with you. None of us, or any business that I've led which has been successful, it wasn't only me, it was teamwork.
Yeah, no.
There were better people than me involved.
Yeah, makes sense. But one quick question to you. I mean, maybe a tricky one. Sorry if I'm asking a tricky one.
I enjoy tricky questions.
So, but considering the way that London has seen in the last few decades, most of the councils are led by one force. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
If at all, if
Yes.
you become
Yes.
mayor, hopefully that's what you're hoping for. So if that happens, but your local councils will be coming from a different, groups, right? So how do you think that collaboration would work? Do you think there's a possibility for you to do it with it? All your stakeholders, basically.
Firstly, I don't, in my dictionary, there's nothing like hope. In my dictionary, I will be the next mayor on 2nd of April because people want change. They're telling me. That's the first part. Now, if you want to bring about change, you will have the councils may be coming from whichever party. It does not matter. Ultimately, who elects them is the people. Any politician listening to me today should know there's even a national election coming around this year. People will decide. Make sure you do the best for the people. That's the first thing. The councils are elected by the people.
That's true.
They also want to do good for the people.
So true.
You cannot keep doing things the way they were and not bring about the change. When you strive to do the best for the people, people will want you back. Otherwise, I've just told everybody who's listening, all the politicians, just make sure you do good for the people like I'm trying to do. So when they do good for the people, they will all sing from the same hymn sheet. When a plane takes off on the runway, you and I may be sitting inside the aircraft on a seat. A lot of factors come together before it actually takes off. London will take off under my leadership, and the factors will be the local council, the local people, all singing from the same hymn sheet. We will all take off together and soar to greater heights, like the plane I'm talking about. So yes, the people want change, the people will be listened to, and I will engage with the people. So whether it's the local council, I want their help, I want their support, and whether it's the national government, whichever government is in power at that time, I will want their support too, and I will get it. I'm a bold, tough person. They will find in me somebody.
It's good to be that way. Okay, I just have one more quick question on the same parallels, right? I mean, in terms of thinking about people around you and how these, because there is history of thought process, right? All these political parties are coming from a philosophy that's been built for years.
Of course.
And you have to break that, if at all, if something else needs to happen. So what's your plan? I mean, I know it's a probably, again, a difficult one to answer maybe, but what's your plan? Are you going to stick on to the basics? Just look on to the
fundamentals? Our plan is very simple.
Yeah.
I will be elected by the people. I will work only for the people.
Okay.
That's my simple agenda.
Yeah.
And I will bring in the best team of advisors and experts to help me in that process from the UK.
Okay.
Right? So when you have good people advising you, experts who are better than you, I don't pretend to be an expert on many things, but I'll be the leader that they look up to. I will roll up my sleeves. I work long hours. They got to be prepared to work the hours, and with only one agenda. Do the best for all communities across boroughs. Do the best for London. And because London contributes to the UK economy will also thrive. People look to London. right? It's a great financial center. We move
Yeah.
many markets. And that's where I come in. You need somebody who cuts across all party lines. I'll do the best for people. I'm not saying I'm a rightist, I'm not a leftist or a centrist. Whatever best is for the people, that will be my policy. So I'm not breaking up any old norms or whatever.
That's good.
It's a
Okay.
simple norm.
But you'll work with them. So
Of
you'll
course,
collaboratively work with them.
I'm not 110%. I will only be successful if I take all people along with me,
No, makes sense.
including the politicians.
Makes sense, 100%. One of the biggest challenge for you is the last 2 quarters we have gone below the line.
Oh, yes.
And we're almost calling, I mean, we officially are calling it as a
Technical recession.
technical recession. So how are you going to deal with it? Because I know you're talking about big plans,
Yes.
but you and I come from the financial sectors.
Yes,
We
yes.
understand money is the key.
Yes.
So what's your take on the country's current economic situation and how are you going to deal with it?
I think you're correct. If there's one more quarter of growth like this, it could be in recession.
Yeah.
But thankfully for us, I think the Monetary Policy Committee of the central bank, it seems, has decided not to increase interest rates anymore. So we're sitting from 10 basis points, we've got to 5.25 now. As inflation has come down, it'll probably come down a little more.
Yeah.
And it would appear that the current government is looking to exercise other levers, and those should help boost the economy a little bit. It is election year, so both parties will look to set up policies that help drive growth. Because if the engines of growth are not chugging along, which have been a little slow over the last couple of years and more, and we haven't taken full advantage of Brexit either as yet. And I'm pretty certain they should be working on those lines. So what I believe in is simple things make big differences. People need to be focused on doing good only and not thinking politics as we speak. So I believe the stage has come, but with inflation being down, that should help bring some investments in. The free trade agreement with India we alluded to, and there are other such agreements in the offing and they are being discussed. That should augur well for business, and the trade flow should increase, and we will see growth again coming back.
Brilliant. The one more very interesting, or probably the most talked about area, is the world peace.
Yes.
Right? And we have seen Middle East is struggling now. We have seen Europe is struggling. We have seen across the world there's something or the other which is, I think everything indirectly does impact London, because London is a city where everyone lives. So even if it is Israel, Palestine, or even if it is Ukraine, Russia, even if it is Oman and Saudi, it doesn't matter. Everything is gonna hit like the London in some or the other form.
Most certainly.
So what is that you're gonna do with this? How are you gonna speak to your communities in London? Say that, you know, we are still with you, because these are all different people, different philosophies, coming from different ideology and belief systems, and also sides.
Yes, yes.
Because in sitting in London, it becomes a difficult table conversation for me as an individual, because I have friends from this country, I have friends from that country. All three of us sit on the same dinner table. Such difficult conversation.
Yes.
How are you going to deal with it in a large scale?
Well, let me paint a picture for geopolitics for you. The world is at an inflection point as we speak, right? It's never been more dangerous,
Yeah.
right? This is not the time for saber rattling. Things can go easily out of control.
Yeah.
And you mentioned a war in Europe, and there is a war ongoing or a strife ongoing in the Middle East. And the politicians, I think, have been sitting on a fence for a long time on this. In my humble opinion, leaders need to take bold decisions now. This war, particularly in the Middle East, could spiral totally out of control.
Yeah.
They're talking of ceasefire still. This actually needs to stop totally, right? Otherwise, it can get totally out of control and they won't know how to stop it. I believe they need to stop this war.
Everyone wants to, but how is the question?
Well,
yeah.
listen, they need to stop talking of things and need to do things. That there are leaders that need to sit across a table. No war has found a solution only on the battlefield. There are civilians involved here. There's a ground offensive ongoing at the moment, disproportionately out of control at the moment. Please understand that. And this needs to stop. I believe when I say stop, I'm not talking only of a ceasefire. I believe this war needs to stop. Totally.
Yeah.
So otherwise, look, we're sitting, the Crusades have been going on for thousands of years. It is beyond my pay grade, even when I'm the mayor, to resolve this.
Yeah, true. True.
So at the end of the day, I speak for London. I want to make sure, no matter which community you come from, right?
You're given the same place.
This is where I belong. This is my home. Where your children, my children,
True. So true.
grow up. I want to do the best for London. I want to make sure all communities go hand in hand, right? And if there's a war going somewhere which is causing tensions here, we can't afford that. It'll affect our growth, it'll affect our mental well-being, and we can't afford that. So as far as I'm concerned, I would tell clearly to all the world leaders, including our parliament here, this needs to stop totally the war. You're still talking of ceasefires, and you started talking today. You've been changing the goalposts for yourselves. This is not about getting your votes. It's about finding a solution. A lasting solution is important. Otherwise, geopolitics is dangerous. We are poised for bigger things that could go totally wrong, and it can spiral totally out of control. We are seeing it in the Red Sea and other regions. We don't want that. London does not want that. The world does not want that. The people don't want that. Let's find that solution.
So true. So true. I'm with you on that, absolutely. So there should be a stop because we want to have a peaceful life. And every home wants to come back and
certainly.
talk about fun.
We can have fun
loving
together.
life. Yeah.
Communities, children go to school.
That's true.
They meet children from other communities.
That's one of the very, very
for me, it
sensitive areas.
For me, it starts from
yeah.
there. For me, it starts from there. I know you have school-going kids yourself.
Yeah.
And when that child goes to school, he or she should not be thinking this is somebody from another community.
Absolutely.
Never. I want children to be playing on the same play field, holding hands, eating from each other's tiffin boxes as I would do when I was in India.
That's true.
You know, when my mother would pack a tiffin for me, and we would call it those days, you know, you had boys from bringing something different, and we would share it.
That's true.
And I want
sharing
that
is
same,
one of the finest.
I want that sharing, that compassion, that love,
True.
that sort of feeling. And the children learn from their parents. The parents may be talking in their living rooms, on their dining tables. I want a talk of only peace, lasting peace. Happiness will prevail only when people
come together.
And that's what's important. This is where some of the leaders need to understand.
Yeah.
And don't forget, when the strife actually began, I'm not talking about the current strife from 7th of October. I'm talking about 75 years ago. This instrument which you're holding in your hand, that mobile phone, the smartphone did not exist. Today, the little child is holding a phone. You know, the messaging is faster.
Everyone knows everything.
Everybody knows everything. There's nothing hidden.
So true.
So we can't hide the truth. Everybody knows.
Yeah.
And you can't kick the ball in the rough for another 75 years.
So true.
So you've got to make sure that that solution is found. I want our children to go back to school happily. You don't want a certain set of people, as we hear in the press. Those children are not able to go to school.
Yeah.
Similarly, on the other side, there are civilians, there are children, millions of them. We've got to find that solution. And that's what I'm talking about.
I'm with you on that. Absolutely. So, okay, that's a great talk, Tarunji. And I just want to close with a couple of quick thoughts. One is, what's your theme running into this? So do you have any quick 3 top line items that you want to talk about? I know you said it into detail of various things.
Yes. So one is trust and growth.
Okay.
When I say trust and growth, a lot of people came to London trusting the government.
It's a beautiful city. Yeah.
And they were hoping this is the best city on the index. I want to make it the greatest city. That growth is lacking today. Opportunities are lacking. There are a lot of adults who are not even educated. So I want to create the opportunities for people who have been left behind. I want the youth to be thinking of the future, they see something. That will happen under my leadership. I also want to make sure that people are paying for things, for basic necessities, those should be provided. And safety is paramount, one of them. I want to see that visible policing. I want to have them measured. I want to open those police stations. I obviously want cleaner air and greener city, but that's not going to be helped with the ULEZ. I'm going to abolish ULEZ totally. I'm going to make sure the congestion charge goes away over the weekends and holidays. 20-mile limits, unless necessary, gone. Communities need to be thriving again, affordable housing. So it's very simple. I'm here for the people. I'll be elected by the people. I'll be guided by them. I don't have all the ideas. I'll make sure they thrive. When they thrive, the city will thrive. It'll become the greatest city. I want to bring back the smile for each Londoner. And I want to bring back the mojo for London. So as far as I'm concerned,
That's your theme.
That's my theme. I'm only working for the people. I want to make sure each community, and we were alluding to some communities are feeling a bit disenchanted, bit troubled. All communities need to be feeling that feeling, and that school child going there, hold hand in hand with other children.
Stay happy.
And that's what I want.
Yeah, okay. And also, most of my audience are from Indian and South Asian community, right? As I said, like I started this series of influential Indians in UK. So you're one of them. So that's why I was talking to you. But yeah, this is beyond India conversation that we had today, which is very good, which is brilliant because we are seeing leaders from India across the world. So which is a great news for India. But do you want to say anything to South Asian and Indian community in particular as an appeal or things like that? Yeah.
Well, most certainly. I started my journey in India. I went to India. I grew up there. That's my Janam Bhumi. This is my Karam Bhumi. I actually launched my campaign 3 odd months ago in India, taking the blessings from elders, my parents there. And I've had a lot of support and blessings coming out of India for me every day. It's an outpouring that I can't have ever imagined. I appeal to all Indians, come together. I come together, vote for what is correct. I'm the best candidate, not because I claim so. Look at my experience. Look at the good work my family and I have been doing all over these centuries, and as I've been doing for about 40 years. I'm only working for people. There's no other incentive here. Don't be divisive. Vote for me. Elect for the best person.
Yeah, may the best win always. Always we say. Hello, audience. As you know, I'm not into politics as such, but we are talking to various people, and we do want to give opportunity to everyone who wants to do well. So you might be hearing me speaking to various other leaders as well, but choice is yours. It's all in your hands. Make a right choice, and may London get the best.
Vote for me. Support me.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that.
No, I can say that. I can say that.
All right. Thank you so much, Tarun.
Thank
And
you so
it's
much.
amazing
It's
to
been a
speak to
pleasure.
you. And I want you to do well.
Thank you.
And do good for Indian community as well.
Always, always.
Yeah, I'm sure you would. Thank
My
you so
heart,
much.
I believe in Vasudeva Kutumbakam,
Yeah.
which is what I bring to the table. I want to make sure everybody thrives.
Sure. I've seen you speaking to various big leaders in India as well. So hopefully they'll support you as well. Let's see.
I'm sure they will. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.